So the original title of the record was going to be To Pimp a Caterpillar.
I was going to bring this up.
Did you see that?
I was going to bring this up, and I'm glad I didn't because it would have made me look even dumber. The original title of the album was fucking Tupac.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Playback. My name is Brandon.
My name is Nate. Today, we are discussing the landmark 2015 album To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, what were your impressions of To Pimp a Butterfly?
Yeah, so on this listen through, this is an album that we both have heard about a bazillion times since it came out. It really stood out to me how cinematic it is. It has a lot of qualities that like a good movie has, or a story that's told through the medium of cinema.
I like that. I like that a lot, especially considering his previous album, Good Kid, Mad City, a short film by Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
So yep. I'm sure he would appreciate that.
He's done it more than once.
My impressions on this listen through, just the overwhelming scope of this album.
Yeah.
It's the biggest piece of music in scope.
Huge.
Very huge. It's the biggest piece of music, like in terms of scope, that maybe in the last 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, there are very few albums I've ever listened to that feel this like comprehensive. This album to me is it is in musical terms the culmination of the Black experience in America as told through music, right?
Yeah.
So
up to 2015.
Up to 2015, yeah. And yet everything that made To Pimp a Butterfly prescient and important and timely in 2015, it's like more true today.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, why did we pick this album?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it is kind of, we chose this.
Yeah,
one.
we did.
We chose it together. You suggested we do a Kendrick album. We chose this one together. Really, most of all, to commemorate his new album coming out, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Yeah, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers came out. As of this recording, it came out yesterday.
But we are here to talk about To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
This was so daunting. Just thinking about that me and you were going to sit down in front of some cameras and pretend to like have some thoughtfulness and some insight and like have a real discussion about this album and what it is and what it represents, and to be able to like even do anything that would like hold a candle to and like be able to properly honor what this thing is was very scary. But yeah, I think that's okay. I think it's daunting for anyone to talk about, but something I really believe that something that this is big belongs to everybody. We each took notes. We each have some talking points and things that we want to discuss about To Pimp a Butterfly. Let's get into it. The first one that I wanted to talk about is how great the storytelling is. I can't remember what song. It's in the middle of one of the songs when Kendrick is basically talking about a very specific event from his past. And it just stood out to me how, like, you know, in hip hop, that's pretty normal, you know, it seems like that might be the most common, like subject matter in hip hop at large is me describing to you what my life is like, and also describing to you what my life used to be like. But there's something different about the way that Kendrick does it, and it made me realize that normally, like 99% of the time when that's happening in hip hop, it doesn't get any deeper than just like a weather report. Just somebody just describing their life.
Yeah.
And then the song is over. And any kind of like value I get out of it is like on me to go get it.
Sure.
He's telling a very specific story about a person who's from a very specific place and time in the world. But he's telling it in a way where every human being who's listening can see themselves in this story. How can I, a person who grew up in Atascadero, California, I mean, seriously.
Shout out to the Greyhounds.
Orange and gray all the way. When we were in high school, there were probably like 400 something kids at the high school. And maybe 5 kids were black. So that's where I grew up. And I can listen to Kendrick Lamar talk about his specific experiences of growing up in Compton and his experiences of being a person who got successful and got rich and got to travel around the world. Like really specific things that 1 in a billion people can relate to.
0.1%, not 1%.
But I can see my entire life in his talking about his own experiences.
Right.
Why is that? How is that? You know? He tells his story that on the surface, it's the same thing that most rappers are doing, but it's done in a completely different way.
The one thing that I notice about the way the album is constructed, the whole album is contained within this frame of a poem he's reciting. And it's revealed at the end of the album that this is a poem he's reciting to another person. And I couldn't find who that other guy is.
Are you joking?
No, who was it?
Oh my God. This is good. You have to keep this in the video. Okay.
Well, I know he sounds like someone I've heard before.
Yes, you have heard him before. But dude, so before I tell you, let me ask you this. So when I first listened to the record, right, and like he said at first,
I remember you was conflicted.
At first he was conflicted.
Misusing your influence.
Misusing your influence, and it gets longer, and he says more of it each time, and it becomes clear that he's talking to somebody.
Yeah.
Like the first time that I heard it, just knowing how religious he is, I assumed that he was talking to Christ or something, you know, like a poem that he wrote to Jesus or something. But he was saying some certain things that like misusing your influence. I'm like, that doesn't really sound like something. So I thought it was something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it would be that he's literally sitting there speaking to somebody.
Talking to a guy.
All the way at the end, it's revealed the fucking dude. This is like the biggest reveal. Who he's talking to is Tupac. That's actually Tupac speaking.
What? Are you serious?
Yes.
No.
That's why it's such like a what the fuck? Like,
wait, what?
He's having a conversation with Tupac.
Now I'm going to acknowledge how dumb I am. 2 episodes running.
But so the way that he
I would
made
never
that
have thought
happen,
that because Tupac's dead.
Because he's dead.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
I never
know.
thought
That's
that.
why it's such like a, oh my God, it's such a bomb drop. Whoa. It's like, what the fuck? Because first of all, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then second of all, as it goes on, you're like, how you're trying to explain how this is happening.
Yeah.
That Kendrick Lamar has included on the end of his album an intimate conversation between himself and a person who is dead.
I've never got to interview Tupac, man. You come out, man, and you interview Tupac, man. I mean, what was that?
Kendrick did an interview with another interviewer who gave him a gift, which is an interview that this interviewer had done with Tupac.
Wow.
That had never been published.
Wow.
And he's like, dude, I want you to have this. And he gave it to him.
Wow.
He did that thing that like Weird Al Yankovic used to do it. He used to take an interview with like Paul McCartney and replace himself with the interviewer just in editing and just make it be like he asked like some stupid question.
We want bip bop music. Give us some bip bop music.
Bip bop, real.
Oh, that was just great. Thanks.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So he did that, but in a much more
much cooler,
much cooler way. Yeah. So, dude, that, by the way, the way that it's done on this album is like a million times cooler than the Tupac fucking hologram.
Oh, please.
Like a way to like bring him back.
Yeah.
Like you bring back his voice.
Yeah.
You bring back his perspective.
Okay, here's what I was going to say about that though.
Now that I know it's Tupac.
Now that I know it's Tupac. Well, what I'm going to say.
And you know the other guy talking is Kendrick Lamar.
Yes,
right?
I gathered. I gathered that. What I was going to say about it, what I love about the using a poem that he wrote as like the frame of the album is he reveals basically one or two lines of the poem at a time throughout the album, and he repeats the poem up until he gets to a new line, and then the next song or two or a couple songs play. And every line he reads, the theme of that song is that line in the poem. When you read a poem, and you read a single line in a poem, there could be lifetimes of experiences that went into just that line. So for him to say to basically take one line in a poem and then use multiple songs sometimes to expand upon the theme contained in just that one line. It's amazing. It's a way to like extrapolate a poem in like this massive way. Like he takes a very simple poem at the end of the album when he's speaking to Tupac, which I brought up earlier in the video. It's Tupac that he's talking to. I knew that.
Yes.
When he,
Through the magic of editing.
It's Tupac.
At the end of the album, he reads the poem, and it's what? 20 seconds, 30 seconds tops, not even probably. And yet, contained within that poem is this opus of music. And you can extrapolate this poem out into this gigantic, amazing, like expressive, just massive statement, right? And even then, you look at To Pimp a Butterfly itself, and if you were to meet and speak with Kendrick Lamar, you would understand that him as a person is this massive extrapolation of his own art, right? It's like it's almost like little fucking Russian nesting dolls of like expression that just like explode outwards, like the more the further you go, and it's amazing that someone with so much to say, he's able to say the same thing in 20 seconds as he is able to say it in a 120-minute double album.
Everything that To Pimp a Butterfly is about is pretty well summed up in the two poems that he reads to Pac.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But then, I don't know, there's some other songs that are a bit more specific about.
Yeah, of course there's digressions, when he's extrapolating to such a massive extent, when you're going from a single line in a poem to like multiple songs. There's definitely digressions, but I would agree. I think that like
Today, Junior.
He wouldn't have done it this way if that's not what he was trying to get you to take away from it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking of songs like All Right, The Blacker the Berry.
Yeah.
So, The Blacker the Berry. Just talk about that song for a second. So the thing that tripped me out about The Blacker the Berry this time listening through is that every time before this time I had heard it, I had heard that song every time as being a song that is primarily about the rest of the world. outside of himself, talking about blackness
Yeah.
and black people and the way that the rest of the world treats and regards black people.
Right.
And then also inside of that, like a critique on the way that black people relate to black people and blackness.
Right.
But this time I heard it is actually completely about him. And it never stood out to me. It's right there under my nose the whole time. The first line, he says,
I'm the biggest hypocrite in 2015. Once I finish this,
and if you're paying attention to me by the end, you'll know what I mean. At the end, the entire part where he's talking about like just, you know, how a person can be like all about gangbanging and all about the culture and all about blackness and all about, you know, putting my fist up and everything, but yet, you know, participate in the exact same thing that murders other black people and everything.
Right.
Hypocrite. I always thought he's talking about like people at large.
He's talking about him directly.
He's talking specifically about himself and nobody but himself.
Right. Which I don't know his history, but is there like an event that happened where he was responsible for the death of somebody, or is he being literal? Like is he literally saying I was responsible for someone dying?
One of the things that I love about Kendrick, one of the many things, is if you ever want to know what Kendrick means by something, it's very easy to find out.
Yeah.
He talks about it multiple times in multiple interviews.
It's interesting.
You know?
I think given that he's speaking on subjects that are so important and have such massive ramifications for our culture.
And we hate the po-po, want to kill us in the street, faux show. KG.
Please. I don't like it.
How can you take a song that's about hope and turn it into hatred? You know what I'm saying? The message, the overall message is we gonna be all right. It's not the message of I want to kill people.
Like there are songs on this record that they're like anthems used during the Black Lives Matter protests, and he's speaking on things that are more important than the art itself, although the art is like a vehicle.
Well, completely.
Yeah, it's like the art.
Exactly. He's on a mission. It's similar to like Bob Marley, how they used to say about Bob Marley. Everybody who was in his camp was like, no, you don't understand. Like, he wasn't living his life like to be living a life. He had a purpose for the world, for all of us.
Yeah.
And that's what he was doing. Like Kendrick, it really seems like that. And like, it kind of explains why he would be willing to say more and make sure that everybody understands what it is that he's saying, because it's more important to him that what this is gets out in people's ears and gets in all of our minds more so than, I like to be private, you know?
His music is a vehicle for revolutionary thought and action to take place in the world. And so, yeah, for him to, he's not doing any service towards that end by being silent about it, right? He's actually, if that is his mission and that's like part of one of the goals of his music, then being silent on it is, it would kind of be missing a big opportunity, really, to help people understand and to bring people along with that way of thinking and that way of living.
Yeah. And so that right there is a huge theme in To Pimp a Butterfly. What it has been like for him to experience being somebody who comes from a world that is this big and ending up being out in the wider world and feeling the pull of the responsibility to be true to his community of people who didn't get to come with him. And to also be true to his mission that he found, this wider purpose that is bigger than himself and also bigger than the one community that he came from.
Yeah.
But having to find a way to reconcile those two. To Pimp a Butterfly is also a story which begins with a young guy who's from Compton who has newly gotten his fame and his way out of Compton.
Right.
but he doesn't have any of the discoveries yet. He doesn't have any of the mindset. His mindset is not bigger than Compton yet.
Right.
And it slowly gets bigger and slowly gets bigger and slowly expands and slowly expands. Like the first 3 or 4 tracks, they're all lyrically from the perspective of a dude who has big intentions and big goals, but they're the big goals that are seen through the eyes of a person who can only think small.
A very narrow keyhole view of life.
And it progresses and progresses and progresses and gets, toward the end to the part of now he's where he's at now. It's just somebody who's in a philosophical bind. Kendrick is a person who
he knows people who have died.
He was talking about while he was on tour
yeah.
for Good Kid, Mad City,
relatives, friends.
And it's still happening. People that, because his people who are important to him, they didn't get the way out that he got. He stopped living inside of that world exclusively at the age that he did, something like 22 or 23, something like that. And it's now to the point where with every day that goes by, he is more distant from his ability to be able to identify and to relate with them, because they live another day and get another day older, spending more time in a world where he isn't living every day anymore.
Yeah, it's a whole. It's like being on another planet at that point. Not only just because of the now wealth and class disparity that he's a part of, now being a huge artist who tours the world and now has all this money.
Right.
But it's literally if you're stuck in one place where you grew up your whole life. It's what even is the rest of the world to you? You know what I mean? It's like a fantasy. It's it might as well not even be there if you can't get out, if you're stuck there. It's what does it even mean to you? Who cares? It's not your reality. And as far as you know, it may never be part of your reality. It's like a mental wall that's put up, and by no fault of your own, just because of your circumstance and you're trapped there,
Yeah. So me and you we both grew up in the same small town in California. And we both, as soon as we graduated from high school, left. And neither one of us has lived back there again. I'm the only member of my family who doesn't live there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were both kids when we were young, like you said, looking forward, and just everything that we saw about what we want to be, what we think we could be, is bigger than this town.
Yep.
Want to get out, got to go out. But this whole unexpected experience that I'd never planned on, that I didn't think would ever happen, that happens now when I go back, which is that this place and all the people who I am connected to have been living inside this terrarium the entire time. Yeah. And as every day, every year that goes by, whether I like it or not, no matter how hard I try to stay true to where I come from, it doesn't help. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
I get farther and farther and farther away from my family. Some are literal family and some are figurative family.
Yeah, I think of it everywhere you go, every new experience you have, it changes you. And it's almost like swapping out an old part in yourself for a new part. Except you can never get it back. Once it's changed forever. It's much like, what's it? I think it's called the ship of Theseus. Yeah, the ship of Theseus, where it says, over the journey of one ship, slowly, one by one, every part of the ship has been replaced one at a time, right? Is it when it arrives at its destination, is it still the same ship? It to me that reminds me of like how every 7 years, every single cell in your body has been replaced, right?
Is it the same?
Are you the same person? Like in a lot of ways, of course you are, but in a lot of other ways, it's like no.
You know, you and I didn't grow up in danger. The people that we know back home are not being murdered, but we can still find in our experience like the kind of like skepticism, disapproval, the kind of like resentment that some people back home can feel for us when we come back and try to just like be in Atascadero. It's a human thing that is there of like, you weren't here. I was here, you weren't here, you know?
Imagine you come from a place, imagine you're born a caterpillar and you come from a place where everyone stays caterpillars forever. And yet you finally leave and you come back a butterfly. You can fly now. You think differently. You have this bird's eye view of perspective of the world now. You have this maybe wider goals in life, bigger. You're thinking outside of the box that is where you're from. You can see right away how someone could resent you for that, you know, for just simply sprouting wings and leaving, you know. It's like, because for some people it's impossible, you know, so it's easy to resent someone that did get out, you know, because it's like not everyone can get out, you know. It's not as easy as just, well, I have to leave, because I'm sure
in fact most people can't.
Yeah, most people can't, and I'm sure that doesn't change the fact that people that can't leave go to bed every night thinking, I have to leave, but they still can't.
For us, the proportion of people that got out of our town is so much higher.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Than the percentage of people who get out from where these guys are from.
Right.
There are so many people who can find themselves in what Kendrick is saying, because we live it on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
The trap that we were born in is much less vicious than the one that he was born in. And the calling that we feel and the mission that we feel is probably less grand and immediate and important, and we're probably grabbed by God less intensely than he is. But it's the same. It's a different flavor of the same machine, of the same story, you know, and we can find ourselves in it. It's a very universal kind of a thing.
He's using you know, his upbringing and his surroundings as the storytelling vehicle, but it's like he does it in a way that you know, if it's not relatable to everybody, you can at least picture it and picture everything he's going through much better than you would have, you know, maybe without listening to Kendrick Lamar tell you about it.
I mean, honestly, it is very hard to talk about any aspect of this album without it getting spiderwebbed and convoluted in with every other aspect of it, both superficial aspects and like super deep aspects and ones in the middle.
It's like real life in that way, you know?
And like a great work of art, because every aspect just very, it's like a beautiful prism, you know?
None of the themes on this album exists on an island. They're all reflected in each other. They're all communicating with each other. They're all commenting on each other. They're all...
they all enhance each other.
The sheer brilliance to be able to compile this as one cohesive thing that works as well as it does. I mean, okay. A lot of people compare Kanye's album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, as they say that's the Sgt. Pepper's of rap, right? I was trying to think of what would you compare this album to if you had to make an analog like that? And I arrived at, there's no precedence for this album. If you had to compare something to Sgt. Pepper's, but you could only compare it to something that came out before Sgt. Pepper's, what would you call it?
Right.
What would you compare Sgt. Pepper's to? You can't. You fucking
Yeah,
can't because
there isn't
it's
anything
unprecedented.
before it.
It's unprecedented. There was nothing like it before. And I think that in a lot of ways, same goes for this.
I think that there are albums from before 2015 that do things that this album is doing. But I can't think of any examples that do all of the things that this is doing. And there's lots of examples of works that address the conversation that he's having about blackness in American blackness in the world. But I can't think of any that are what he's saying and the way that he's saying it, and that it's happening in the same album as what is happening mechanically and musically and in the method of delivery as the way that this is. You know what I mean? I can't think of.
There's pieces. Yeah. There's pieces throughout music history that were essential ingredients to arrive at an album like this or this album. But there is nothing. There is no full package like To Pimp a Butterfly in music history, I don't think. What do you think about Kendrick Lamar and his music being referred to as consciousness rap? Because I have some thoughts on that. I think that's a really weird fucking thing to refer to any type of anything as, like consciousness rap. Like as opposed to what?
Exactly. I think if you call Kendrick Lamar consciousness rap, it just shows a certain ignorance to rap and hip hop that you have.
Yeah.
Like it totally does a disservice to all other hip hop and the integral nature that consciousness has in rap.
Yeah. I think if there needs to be a designation made, designate stuff that is so thoughtless as bullshit rap, pop rap. By referring to this as consciousness rap, it's like, to me, it feels like you're doing a disservice to like everything else that doesn't have that label. Like, what are you inherently implying?
Exactly.
By calling this consciousness rap and other rap not that.
I think it's something that people say about it when they are intimidated or afraid to hear it, to like let themselves, because something like To Pimp a Butterfly, it requires maturity of you.
Yeah.
And if you're not currently living with that maturity, it'll bring it out of you.
Or it'll bring out like the immaturity in you.
Or however it is that you're going to respond to that challenge, or to that that request of you or whatever. And one of the ways is to kind of laugh it off.
Yeah.
So then that, now I get to be safe because I gave my comment. I don't have to keep listening. You don't have to keep asking me what I think about it anymore. I don't need to share anything about myself anymore because I said it's artistic, leave me alone.
I acknowledged that it's a little confusing for me. Please don't ask me anything about it anymore.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I don't want to go there.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I would almost rather call Drake's music like dumb rap than call Kendrick Lamar's music consciousness rap. What I will say to critics who I think with good intentions call this consciousness rap, it really does, when you compare a record like this to Kendrick's contemporaries like Kanye and Drake, man, he mops the floor with those guys. It's like not even close, especially
Oh my God,
lately.
dude.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
Like Kanye and Drake have had this completely fabricated fake beef for years solely to sell records.
It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened.
All their energy and all their thoughts are wrapped up in everything besides music and besides saying anything worthwhile to the people listening to their music.
Yeah, who are trying to live in the world, who are trying to make their way in their life in this world.
Yeah. Kanye is like, hey, I'm going to write a song about how fucking Nike didn't accept my design for a sneaker. It's like, when you compare something like Mr. Morale to like Donda or Donda 2, which a lot of people point to as like Kanye, Donda and Donda 2 are Kanye's like heartfelt statements about like his mom and all this stuff. I listen to those records. They're the most throwaway.
It's probably the worst album, the album I hate most.
Oh. Well,
there's no substance to what he has to say anymore, because I don't think he cares really about making good music anymore. I think music is completely secondary. The sideshow is primary in his drive. His primary drive in life is just to have attention. It's not, you know, I mean, you can just look at the quality of work he's putting out, and it's so clear he just doesn't give a shit about music anymore. He doesn't really care about it. It's like it's just another way for him to, you know, I don't know, get t-shirts made and his clothing brand, his clothing line, and there's so many other things that are more important to him now.
I am a god.
It's just unfortunate because, like, as a fan, it's like that's the opposite of what you want to see.
Hey man, when the shit hits the fan, is you still a fan?
Apparently not. Apparently I'm not. Apparently I don't want to get sprayed by shit.
Has hit the fan for your old boy.
Apparently
Kanye.
I don't want to be sprayed by shit from a fan. No, I don't really want that. So I got out of the way. But
I am the #1 most impactful artist of our generation. I am Shakespeare in the flesh.
So, Nate, closing thoughts on To Pimp a Butterfly.
To Pimp a Butterfly is one of the most grand, majestic statements, music or otherwise, by any artist ever. Especially if you're talking 20th century and later. Any kind of contemporary art ever made. This has to be in the conversation as one of the greatest pieces of art that exists. I think To Pimp a Butterfly will probably always stand as his most important work. I really do think no matter what he does going forward, I think it'll be very, very hard for him to ever top this. I also don't think that is the point of To Pimp a Butterfly.
It was just a person saying what he needed, he had to get out.
It was an artist at the peak of his powers, expressing something that almost seems unexpressible when you think about the scope of what it is he had to say.
That really might be the grand accomplishment that this is, and the fundamental thing that makes it so impressive is that it's an example of a time when a person succeeded at completely expressing something that is just so seemingly impossible to fully express. It's like you got to go back to like fucking Beethoven, or like Picasso or something.
And I think for people in 2022,
Van Gogh.
Yeah, for people in, I'm glad you brought up those comparisons because I think they're appropriate. I really do. And I think for people in 2022 to like hear comparisons like that made about a piece of work that was made in their lifetimes. I think you get a very like flippant response from people when they hear something like that, but
yeah, because it's new. Something
that came from our generation will exist on that continuum, right? Something will.
100%.
And I'm telling you, this is that. This is the thing that in 500 years, when people look back on the 21st century, they'll look at be like, well, the first really, truly great, profound work that we still talk about, here's one, you know.
You heard it here, folks. We're going to have to come back in the comments of this video 500 years from now and see if that...
Check for the follow-up video in 2522.
Basically, yeah, like you said, this album is perfect. It's too good.
It's too good.
You can't. You're not allowed to be this good.
All right, how do we wrap these up? What do we do?
So, Nate, would you recommend To Pimp a Butterfly to people who have never heard it before?
Brandon, you're going to be shocked. I would definitely recommend Kendrick Lamar's 2015 masterpiece, To Pimp a Butterfly.
Good.
Brandon, would you recommend To Pimp a Butterfly?
Yes, I would. And I think that if you are American, you kind of have a duty to listen to it.
Yes.
It's important that you hear it.
It is. Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, man. Well, it's been a pleasure discussing music with you. And I'm excited to... I don't even know what we're going to be discussing next, but I'm excited to do it.
Me too. I have no idea what we'll do next. Hopefully something that sucks. That would be fun.
Yeah, we should do a bad one.
We should do a bad album.